So, Gopal Prabhu, very senior man in our society. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Swapadantikam. So, I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. I was just reading in Srimad Bhagavatam how Krishna manifests the universe, the egg, all the material elements, from his body, the hairs are the herbs, his eyes are the sun and moon. And this little tiny universe that we find ourselves in, there's millions of planets, unlimited living entities. Then step back further, there's unlimited universes, unlimited living entities. And here we are going up and down throughout the universe in different bodies, karma, desire, karma and activity. We have different ways of trying to enjoy this material world. And we find ourselves in one of the planets here, planet Earth. But so many planets, celestial beings, siddhas, gandharvas, demigods, demonic personalities. There's all kinds of different beings composed of different material elements. We may have this type of body. Other living beings have different types of bodies. But I was just trying to appreciate, to bring everything back down to, here we are, Kali Yuga. And it's a time, somehow the Lord was very merciful, came to instruct Arjuna, came as Lord Kapila. All the different incarnations are listed in the Vedic literatures. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just appeared 500 years ago. And he instructed the Goswamis, you renovate Braj. It was just a field, trees, whatnot. Renovate Radhakund, Shyamakund, Govardhan, Vrindavan. Open the path of bhakti back to devotional service. We sometimes see in movies there's a certain portal. You can hit that portal and move in time. So we have that opportunity. It's not like we're just imagining things. It's all scripturally described very intricately, scientifically, authoritatively. So, not about me, but I was born in Europe, Macedonia. And somehow, when we were small children, my brother and I, my mother, my father, escaped communist country, Macedonia, came to America. So, who would think that somehow or other, being born in a different country, coming to America as a little boy, learning the language, to speak English and whatnot, and growing up during a time when Srila Prabhupada made that fantastic journey to America, the famous or infamous moon landing and the hippie era, people interested in yoga, interested in self-realization. It's not by chance these things happen. Material nature, working under Krishna's direction, created a situation for all of us. So, I also was into music. I like music, played drums in a rock band for some time. And I saw Maharishi Mahesh Yogi on the television, some interviews, and I thought, yeah, I'd like to expand my consciousness, a bigger understanding, better clarity. There must be something more. So I was reading Bhagavad-Gita from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, 6 chapters, TM, Transcendental Meditation. And somehow, my barber, who was a bhakta, I had hair back then, believe it. I actually had a little bit of a bush because I played in a rock band, and a little beard, you know. Look. So my barber told me, we started speaking about Bhagavad-Gita, and on the spot he sold me a Bhagavad-Gita as it is from Srila Prabhupada, and 3 Back to Godhead magazines. And on the back of Back to Godhead magazine, I saw Vishnu Jan Swami, the traveling Sankirtan bus, everyone chanting and dancing in ecstasy, and nice prasadam, you know, beautiful prasadam. It says, come and join the traveling festival, singing, dancing, and feasting. So you think that, wow, that's a great festival to join, singing, dancing, chanting, feasting. So I was introduced to the devotees and started chanted for quite some time, met the devotees in Harinam Sankirtan in Allentown, or Allen Street Park, the art festival. Sometimes devotees would do Harinam Sankirtan. Just when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he ordered his devotees, you go out and do Sankirtan. So Haridas Thakur, Lord Nityananda, they would go out preaching, giving the holy name, encouraging everyone to chant. So to run into Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan party was only because of the mercy of Prabhupada. Maybe you could silence the phones if we could. That might be a good thing, silence phones. None of us are like super special. Some will receive the opportunity to come early to Krishna consciousness, receive the mercy of Prabhupada. But Prabhupada's mercy is available for everyone. It's just a very short time ago he passed away. I shouldn't say we're celebrating because this appearance day or disappearance day of a pure devotee is non-different. He goes to preach somewhere else. He did his mission here. So we're having the 40th disappearance ceremony this Kartik 2017, and all of you are fortunate if you can be here for that special occasion. So Srila Prabhupada, we heard from Gopal Krishna Maharaj how he came and struggled with no money. Everyone thought he's going to die on the boat, no hope of any kind of success. But due to strong determination, faith in his Guru Maharaj, faith in Krishna, the holy name, the Chaitanya Charitamrita gave him life, energy, and he attracted our hearts to give up the useless material existence and take up devotional service, because everyone in the world is working, looking to be honored, looking to be recognized, and if things don't work the way they want it to work, they become full of anxiety because they're attached to the results. This is karma, that I'm working and I want some result. I want people to recognize me for being, honest, a good person, whatever. I'm wealthy, I'm successful, it's certain prestige. But Lord Chaitanya instructed us, nadanang, najanang, nasundaring, kavitang, vajagadisham, kamaye. Give up all these ideas of any happiness by having possessions and by having people glorify us that, oh, you're such a nice person, you sang such a nice Mangal Artik today. We feel honored that people recognize us naturally. But the real solution to the anxiety of failure or success is just to surrender to Krishna, surrender to Guru, and by surrendering to Krishna and Guru, we become free from the karma, the results, that I'm doing what I can do in the best way I can do it for the pleasure of Krishna. And then there's no anxiety. So I served, I was in Buffalo for some time, and then we were down in Miami Temple. In Florida, Miami Beach is a very famous place. And we traveled. And July 4th, 1976, we had the privilege of being there with Prabhupada at the Washington Potomac Temple. We spent some days there, 3-4 days. But just seeing Prabhupada and seeing the enthusiasm of the devotees and appreciating the great privilege of a descendant from the spiritual world coming here, taking so much trouble and so much effort just to save us. You know, people are glorified as heroes at a time of battle if they sacrifice their own self-interest for the benefit of others. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did. He actually is saving the conditioned souls. Vasudeva Datta had a similar feeling. He was feeling great compassion for all the living entities throughout the universe. He told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let me take all their sinful reactions. Let all of them go back home. And Lord Chaitanya said, that's not necessary. They will be freed by the chanting of the holy name. But even if we liberate this whole universe, there's billions of universes, unlimited universes. So we should feel more fortunate than the most fortunate. One of my favorite verses, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. By the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of Guru, we've been taken out of the cycle of birth and death. We've been given an opportunity to open our eyes and understand that we are part of a mission, of a movement. Movement means it's going in a certain direction. And that direction is towards the spiritual kingdom, back to Godhead. And of course, faith is a strong principle in everyone's existence. A sign of intelligence is to doubt. We sometimes, whatever we doubt, we want to make sure that this is authentic, it's true, it's something real. There are many cheaters and pretenders in the world. So we doubt, but we apply our intelligence with logic and reason. We find Guru Shastra in the Guru, Sadhu Shastra Guru. We see that the Shastra are authentic books. The Guru is giving that same indication that we are Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. We're eternal servants of Krishna. How we got to this material world may be a great mystery. Oh, no one falls from the spiritual world. That's okay, don't worry about that. Somehow we are spirit souls. We're part of Krishna. We're Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, full of bliss, full of knowledge. And by that very nature, Krishna's always existed, so we've always existed with Krishna. Temporarily, we're entangled in a material existence due to a desire to manipulate and control material nature. We want to enjoy, so we're trying to squeeze out some enjoyment. Krishna creates it. Yes, you want to do it, go do that. But you'll never find happiness. So now he's coming and he's sending. And Prabhupada, I can't say that I got any personal letters, nothing like that. Got cookies.
That's great.
During Guru Puja, Prabhupada gave out cookies. And Prabhupada was happy that devotees would just follow his instructions and go on Sankirtan. We all went on Sankirtan, meaning that whatever Prabhupada wanted to do of spreading Krishna consciousness, we felt we should do the same thing. So our business is to distribute Prabhupada's books, but in a very joyful mood, because we know that this is the medicine for everyone. And we want to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And have belief and understanding that the holy name and the Srimad Bhagavatam, by not only reading, but trying to absorb the words of Bhagavatam, by absorbing the words of Bhagavad-Gita, hearing Krishna's message, and that'll give the strength, that'll give clarity, because when the rain is falling from the sky, it's clear, it's pure. When it comes in contact with material nature, it gets muddied and discolored. So our consciousness is pure, but at present we're muddied with identification, with ideas of happiness, ideas about who we are, what is the purpose and goal of life. But the real purpose, the real goal of life is to give up all misidentification, to give up the idea of trying to be happy in this world, and do something, whatever it may be. If you have nothing specific designated, simply by seeing the deities, chanting, dancing, living in the holy Dham, these are all very useful tools to awaken our Krishna consciousness, our love for God. So, as I said earlier, Gopal Prabhu is one of the earlier disciples. He has some stories, a lot more interaction than I've ever had, but I thought that I would at least speak about the significance and the merciful nature of Srila Prabhupada to take all that trouble to come and save all of us.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Namo Vishnuvedaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesha Sunivari Paskati Satarani. So, we should reflect on the wisdom that Panchagoda Prabhu gave to us, and it's always to our advantage to seek out the association of devotees and disassociate with those that are still maintaining desires to lord it over the material nature. So now, after receiving information and knowledge from Srila Prabhupada, things that we had perhaps questions that were unfulfilled became more apparent through the wisdom and knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Even to the point in time when all of us come to Krishna consciousness. So why does that happen? Why is it that even in your own family, your brothers or your sisters or your parents, they can have no any type of inclination or desire to understand God, understand Krishna. So who is our constant companion? Who knows? Who is our constant companion? Krishna, yes. And where is Krishna situated? He's situated in your heart. And what is he doing? He's witnessing everything that we do.
Uh-oh.
Yes. So be careful. You know, now we understand that there are many witnesses, the demigods, the directions, east, west, north, and south.
Temple president.
The temple president, yes. And we're witnessing him also. But the point is that at a certain point of time, Krishna is watching us, and he sees that, oh yes, this boy or this girl, or now so many older people, this gentleman and this senior Mataji, they have shown enough that now I am going to reveal myself not as Chaita Guru, but as who?
Spiritual master.
Yes, of course. He reveals himself as the spiritual master. So the spiritual master then, as Panchagoda said, opens our darkened eyes. So just recently we celebrated the inauguration of ISKCON. At that time, it was 1966, but today there's a lot of hoopla. Who knows the meaning of hoopla? Hoopla means like festivities, and it's made into a spectacular event, but and well, it should be made into this event, but at that time there was only one person who truly had the vision and the understanding that this was the first step in establishing ISKCON. And you know, we think that so many spectacular things happened, but in reality, some documents were filled out, and Srila Prabhupada sent one of his brahmacharis to a city office dressed in karmi clothes, and they submitted the papers, and then after deliberation through public officials, ISKCON was recognized as a society. But that was only in New York. It didn't mean as soon as ISKCON was recognized, the persecution of the devotees stopped. No, the devotees continued to be harassed, and in each city and each state they have different laws which have to be fulfilled. And so New York was the first step, and then from there other cities getting permission to go on Sankirtan. That was a big thing. Even today, many places the police will come and arrest you.
I got arrested 5 times,
Yes.
6 times in
Yes.
New York, Texas.
And you know, they don't have just to harass you. They put you in jail. They stop the kirtan, take you to jail. But Prabhupada's vision was so large that he saw the final outcome of all of this. He knew that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there to guide and to protect and to proliferate this movement. But you know, for us, we were young devotees. We had no vision. You know, we came to Srila Prabhupada and we just did what he said. And I was just thinking, we were just doing the Guru Pranams, and when I joined, we didn't have the Guru Pranams. We had to learn them. They were given to us, so we had to learn them. Now, all the prayers, all the pranams, all the songs, everything is already there, and it's given to you on a silver platter. But Srila Prabhupada, he was very cautious, and he didn't want to stimulate our brains, because our brains were pretty polluted. And so he just gave us just what is necessary, and that was chant Hare Krishna and eat prasadam. Chant Hare Krishna and eat prasadam. And we very willingly did that. And as a result of that, ISKCON began to expand. Slowly at first, but when I joined, there were 7 temples in ISKCON. And outside of what was happening just in our one tiny little center, we received news only sometime, because there was no internet, there was no cell phones, nothing, emails, nothing like this. So everything had to be done by writing a letter, taking it to the post office, putting it in the mail, or a telephone call. And we didn't have money for these things, and so all we knew is that we would receive a certain amount of Bhagavad-Gitas, not Bhagavad-Gitas, I'm sorry, Back to Godheads, and we would sell those Back to Godheads, and this was what we did. And it was exciting to see pictures of other places in ISKCON and how they began to grow. So in my case, I was, so dedicated to serving Srila Prabhupada and doing his Sankirtan that, we would go out 10, 12 hours every day. And little different because there was only 4 devotees. So 2 would chant and 2 would sell back to Godheads. And then they would change off. 2 would chant and then we'd change off and do this all day. And we would sell the back to Godheads for whatever money we could get. 25 cents, 50 cents. Now people are getting $100 bills and, big money for the books and things like this. But, we thought we were doing good if we could get, 25 cents for a back to Godhead. And in the very beginning, all the back to Godheads were mimeographed. They weren't printed by printers. They were all mimeographed. And so, very crude, but they had a nice article or a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, and at that time they were doing some advertising to help pay the expenses. And while we were in this little temple in Seattle, Prabhupada's mission was beginning to expand and grow, and Prabhupada was very diligently working so hard behind the scenes, and we were unaware of how extreme sacrifices that he had to undergo to get. And it came to a time that devotees, they can get initiation from Srila Prabhupada. So in the very early days, sometimes you would be a devotee for a week or 2 weeks and you would get initiated. You get initiated and still you're in so much ignorance. Now you have to take Bhakti Shastra, you have to have approval from the temple president, you have to have 6 letters signed by 20 people and saying that you're eligible to get initiation. But we were given initiation, and it was either done in person by the yajna or by mail. So in my case, I had the opportunity because I joined in 1968, and I had the opportunity that I could have taken initiation, within a few months, but I said no, I wanted to meet and have my initiation done by Srila Prabhupada. So I had put this as a mindset that I was going to accomplish this, to get initiated. And at the same time, ISKCON began to expand. There was a small group of devotees who had gone to San Francisco, and from San Francisco they went to London. And then in London they met immediately with big success. And whenever something very spectacular was accomplished by Srila Prabhupada's disciples, he would go to them. So nowadays, if your Guru Maharaj is in Delhi, you will pack up your bags and hitchhike or go on now I know in a hitchhike, say you want to get an air-conditioned car and go there and sit and have a nice room and a comfortable place to sleep and a lot of prasadam, and then sit and listen to your Guru. But for Srila Prabhupada, because he was working so hard to expand this movement, he saw that these young boys and girls, because they had love for him and a feeling of gratitude for what he had given them, they went to faraway places and they preached. And Krishna is there, and he is in the hearts of all of those people that were being preached to, and those that were receptive to what they were receiving. Then Srila Prabhupada would come. Oh yes, and he would solidify what little bit of knowledge these young boys and girls had given, and from there he planted the seeds, and these seeds began to mature and spread and move and spread again and again. So when Srila Prabhupada left America to go to England, he left, and it took almost 2 years for him to finally come back to Los Angeles. And so I had waited 2 years, and so at that time 2 years was a long time to wait to get to see Srila Prabhupada. And also I have these pictures now. In a couple days we have to glorify Srila Prabhupada again, so I'm not going to divulge. No, I'm just saying that I've already prepared some things that I want to speak about Prabhupada, so I won't tell you all of those things. But for me, in 1967, I went to the first Rath Yatra festival. It was in Golden Gate Park, which is in San Francisco, and it was on the back of a truck. So the devotees somehow had found little Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra deities in a hippie shop, and Prabhupada had another one of the God brothers, Shyamasundar, carve them into big deities. And my first experience was sitting in the park and hearing the sound of the kartals and this chanting of Hare Krishna. And as a hippie, I was in the park indulging in smoking, and doing things which, are forbidden now, and thinking that this drug must be very good because I'm hearing this sound and it's giving me a feeling of euphoria, pleasantness, and I began shaking my head and wanting to chant this mantra. And so from that day I started chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. But there was a period of time where a turn of events started to cause some disturbance in ISKCON. So in 1970, I had received my initiation, and I was sent to New Vrindavan. So now everyone knows New Vrindavan has the Palace of Gold. It's a very big, beautiful structure. But at that time it had just opened, and there were no buildings, and so we had to sleep outside. And it was much different than the way we lived in other parts, because there we wore dhotis, and we didn't have like we do today. The grihastras wore yellow, and everyone else wore saffron, because everyone else was a brahmachari. There was no, deciding if I'm going to be this or if I'm going to be that, and having white. So, because one thing, we didn't have dhotis. We just had to go to the cloth shop and buy whatever cloth was available. But in New Vrindavan, they celebrated the first Janmashtami, which is coming up very soon. And Prabhupada had made a group of boys into sannyasis, and told these boys, now you go out and preach. And so at that time, there was only one sannyasi, and that was Kirtananda. And everyone was anticipating these boys to come, these sannyasis, young sannyasis. And when they arrived in New Vrindavan, they began to say that Srila Prabhupada was feeling discouraged, and he wanted to leave America and go back to India. And for me, I became so overwhelmed with grief because I had waited for so long for this personality to come into my life, and now he was going to leave. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Prabhupada is leaving. I'll never see him again. And I knew that you have to do something to satisfy or to please your spiritual master. So one friend of mine, another devotee, who had been a brahmachari in Vancouver, and I knew him because we would go up and down from Seattle to do programs. He was there and he says, let's go open a temple. And so we said, okay, we'll go. And so we packed up the car we had and we drove to Chicago. And in Chicago, we started a temple. And then for me, in the back of my mind, always thinking, what am I going to do? Prabhupada is leaving, and I will never see him again. But then, reflecting even further back, the first day that I ever went to the Hare Krishna temple, I had already been chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. I told you I had heard that. And I went to the temple, and then when I opened the door of the temple, immediately I saw there was Lord Jagannath again, but this was a smaller Lord Jagannath. And there was that man that I had seen also, not in physical form, but in his picture, his painting form, sitting there. And I went into the temple and we began chanting, and this was my first time to chant with other devotees. And so then after chanting, we sat down, and one boy, his name was Haridas, he was telling me that, first I told him that I'm going to move in the temple today. So nothing you can do about it. And then he started saying, yes, Srila Prabhupada is going to form a world Sankirtan party consisting of 13 or 14 of his disciples. So many will be madranga players, so many will be kartal players, so many will be dancers, and everybody will sing. And so the first day going to the temple, hearing this, I said, oh, somebody's going to be very lucky if they get chosen for this. But as I had said earlier, that Krishna as Chaita Guru is in your heart, and he knows how much your desire is to meet the spiritual master and to serve him. And so once going to Chicago, we went out on Sankirtan as we had normally done, and there was just three of us at that time. And suddenly one morning I got a telephone call from Los Angeles, and the person said, you're going to go to India with Prabhupada. So, yeah. So that I was so overwhelmed with, why me? How could I have been chosen? And they said, no, go to New York, and then you will meet the other devotees. So there was other devotees. Some of them knew each other because they came from the East Coast, but for me, I didn't know anybody. But I went to New York, and we went on Sankirtan to collect our money for our airfares. And from that moment until even today, it's been like a whirlwind of fantastic pleasures and experiences. You've seen these Indiana Jones movies and the Great Adventures and all of these things. This can not compare even in the slightest bit to traveling with Srila Prabhupada and experiencing how ISKCON began to grow. And today I call you boys, and some of you are my age or older, but it's still Prabhupada called everyone boys.
Today's his birthday. 68, he made it, 68 suffering. Yeah. Or maybe 69, we don't know. We're not sure.
No, if you're born in Asia, the day you're born, you're 1 year old.
Okay. 69.
So, 69, yeah. But anyway, we, as a small group, we left America and we ventured to Bombay. And we were waiting the arrival of Srila Prabhupada because he was coming via the western route so he could go to Dai Nippon Insatsu. Dai Nippon Insatsu is a printing company in Japan. Dai means big, Nippon means Japan, and Insatsu means printer. So it's the big Japanese printer. And it was at that time the biggest printing company in the world. And so Srila Prabhupada had gone there to negotiate with this company to print Krishna book, because we know that George Harrison had given money to print this book. And so immediately Prabhupada didn't put any money in his pocket and think about a rainy day. No, every time a penny came in, that penny went out to expand his movement. And so eventually Srila Prabhupada arrived in Bombay and joined us who had already assembled there, and we began a whirlwind tour of India, traveling, in austere conditions and going, everywhere. We would get an invitation, we would go, and we would preach, and we would preach. And for me, the moment I met Srila Prabhupada and was able to have his association in such greatness, I realized that he was a magnificent preacher. He had so much energy. We were all young, in our 20s. At that time I was 20 years old, something like that. But Prabhupada, he would preach from morning until night, non-stop preaching. People would come to argue with him or debate with him. He would defeat them, and at the end they would be touching his feet. So this is the greatness of the Mahajan, the Paramahansa. So, just like Panchagoda Prabhu said, he said Maharishi Yogi. So, I also was searching, and I went to all these different yogi people. I went to the Maharishi's place. I went inside, and immediately I said, "This guy's bogus." Krishna's telling me, "This guy's bogus. Get out of here." And then I went to Hawaii, and I was living in a little hermitage that I had made doing yoga, and up the road was a Buddhist temple. And so I'd go there, and the Buddhists would be doing this, and very quiet and austere, because I was very austere. No, I was already vegetarian. I became vegetarian at 16, but they were so, and I was thinking, oh, yeah, this is what I like, very austere, strict, and I didn't know about Super Soul, the Atma, the Paramatma, the difference between us and God. I just was interested in spiritual life. And so I was ready to move in, and then I saw the head Buddhist priest in the town going from shop to shop, shoving his face full of food. And then what are you doing? And then he said, oh, you got to enjoy sometimes. Then I said, oh, you're bogus too. So luckily, Krishna gave me the intelligence that I didn't get entangled with one of these others. I waited for the true Paramahansa, and that was Srila Prabhupada. There's so many stories. I can tell you a few. Some of you may have heard them before, but it doesn't hurt to relive them. So, as I said, we traveled with Srila Prabhupada, and collectively as a group there were about 15 of us, but each and every individual, even today in this class as I'm speaking, what I say and what you see and the realizations you have are going to differ. So your realization may be completely different than him. And so it was the same for us as we traveled with Srila Prabhupada. What I saw and how I experienced those situations, maybe another devotee might have a little bit different interpretation of what was going on. But in whatever circumstance it was, all of us were eager to serve Srila Prabhupada. And so one story which was kind of interesting is that we were leaving one city, and when we left, wherever we were at, normally the host would buy a first-class train ticket for Prabhupada. There was no airplanes back then, and we would travel in third class. So nowadays they don't even have third class in the train systems, but this third class was really bad because people would bring livestock and big baskets of food, and there would be one small little toilet every third car with a little tiny sink outside that may have water in it to wash your hands with after you use the facilities there. And so on this particular occasion, Prabhupada was given a third class ticket also, and so he had to ride with us in this third class compartment. And he just came in and immediately, adapted himself to his circumstances. Some people would be very, I got to have this, I got to have that. It's not the suit.
Stop talking about me.
Yeah, but Prabhupada just immediately, came in. And for this journey, someone had made some prasadam for us, mostly savories and sweets, because you couldn't carry liquid vegetables and such as this. And so I was in charge of the prasadam. And so going on this journey, and then somewhere, as we were traveling, Srila Prabhupada told me, he says, "Give me a kachori." And so I had a basket, and this I reached in and gave Prabhupada a kachori. He began eating the kachori, and he says, "Now you give to everyone something to eat." So I was handing out samosas and kachoris, giving something to everybody, and everyone had something and they were eating it. And then Prabhupada says, "Now you eat." And so I also took, I don't remember what it was, a samosa or a kachori. I began to eat it. And then, of course, we eat with our right hand. And as I was just finishing it, licking my fingers, Prabhupada said, "Give me another kachori." And then I was sitting like this, what am I going to do? Because my hand is dirty. And then I was thinking, I have to run to the little bathroom, which is 2 cars or 3 train cars away, and I have to wash my hand, and maybe there's no water, and I have to run back to give Prabhupada's kachori. And so I was thinking, how long will it take me to go? And I kept looking over my shoulder, trying to calculate in my mind. It was only a few seconds, but it seemed like an eternity, thinking, how long will it take me? How long will it take me? And then I kept looking like that, then looking at my hand, and looking like that, and then Prabhupada says, "You may use your left hand." So he knew what I was thinking and the anxiety that I had been going through. And so he did this on so many occasions. He would alleviate devotees' anxiety, and he knows what you're thinking. So don't think that you can get away with something. He knows. And this is, one nice thing. I'll go back even further to the day that I got initiated to show you another example of this. So at that time, we didn't have any books. There was no books like today. There's so many books, and in the books, so many personalities are being given to us, and we're learning so many new, of characters from Lord Chaitanya's Leela and from Krishna's life. But at that time, we didn't have any books, and so all these names, that Prabhupada was giving, who knew what they were? And I wasn't such a smart fellow. And so as we were sitting around the fire, and Prabhupada, was chanting on our beads, and I kept thinking that I hope Prabhupada gives me an easy name. I hope he gives me an easy name. And so when it was time, the yajna was over and the devotees were being called up. The first devotee to go up, he was a boy, his name was John. He was from Vancouver. He was a brahmachari. And Prabhupada asked the question to all of us. He says, so, what are the 4 regulated principles? And how many rounds are you going to chant every day? And will you be able to do this? And then everyone said, yes, Prabhupada, yes, Prabhupada. And so he gave John his beads and says, your name is Sridhar. He said, your name is Sridhar. And then the next, I was thinking, oh, Sridhar, that's easy name. I can remember Sridhar. And then the next boy who came up, he was also from Seattle Temple. And so he got his beads, and then Prabhupada asked him the same questions. And he said, yes, I can do that, Prabhupada. And he says, okay, your name is Romaharshan Sutta. So you know who Romaharshan Sutta is, yes? The father of Sutta Goswami. And I said, Romaharshan Sutta. Oh, how can I ever remember that name? Oh, no. And so then it was my turn to come up. And Prabhupada says, so what are the 4 regulated principles? And immediately, yes. And how many rounds will you attend? 16 every day. A minimum of 16 every day. He says, can you do that? Yes, Prabhupada, I can do that. Your name is, he gave me my beads, and I still have them. He gave me my beads, and then he said, your name is Gopal, G-O-P-A-L. He says, is that okay? And I said, yes, Prabhupada, thank you so much. So this is just another example showing you how Prabhupada knows what you're thinking. So for Prabhupada's Leela, I can go on for 5 days, like they did, like for speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7 days, no sleep, no food, no nothing, just listening to the recitation. So, and that way, the glories of Srila Prabhupada, we can continue talking about them until the cows come home, until you're as old as me. And so that's, just a little bit. So I want to save a lot more for next few days. We have another wonderful time to glorify Srila Prabhupada. But you new devotees, everyone is relatively a new devotee, don't become complacent and expect things to be given to you on a silver platter. You have to look and see how Srila Prabhupada suffered and went through so many austerities, both physical, financially, and such as this, to expand this movement. And look how expansive it's become. Look at this beautiful, beautiful temple. At one time, this was nothing. But Srila Prabhupada, he had the vision. It's like that in Mayapur. So Mayapur, everyone has been to Mayapur? Yeah, everyone has gone to Mayapur. So everyone had a good time? You loved it there? Yeah, Mayapur is such a wonderful place. But Srila Prabhupada, he saw what was going to be developed there, just as he knew that this would be developed, and all of this that we see around us would also be part of the development of Krishna Balaram Temple and Radhamadhava Temple in Mayapur. But there was a time in Mayapur that nobody would go there. Nobody. Yeah, so for me and 3 other devotees, we went there. And there was no facilities. We slept outside. We slept on the ground wherever we could. And we had no food. We had no money. We didn't do it. We didn't have anything. And sometimes the devotee would come from Calcutta or from some other part to Mayapur, and then they would arrive in the morning and they would see how we were living, and then immediately they'd be on the train going back. And on a few occasions, because Prabhupada stayed mostly in Bombay because preaching was better there, but he came to Mayapur, and immediately he came, and it didn't matter of the hardships that we had to endure. He just immediately adapted to it. But his entourage, people who had traveled with Prabhupada and thought that they were privileged and needed some extra, whatever facilities, they came and they saw how we lived and said, "How can you live like this?" And they kept waiting. They didn't have mosquito nets, and they were all night smacking mosquitoes. I'm inside my mosquito net, nice. But they were like this. But then they would never come back.
No air conditioning?
No, we don't have even fans, nothing. But anyway, the devotees were willing to make these sacrifices. So don't take it for granted. You have a nice room. Everyone here, you have a room. You go to your room. And I've seen the food you eat, and I've seen the way you brahmacharis eat, man. Your plates are stacked like this, full of food, If you have no food, like in Mayapur, we had no food. Literally no food. We had chip rice. Chip rice is chira. But it was dry chira. We didn't have any gur or yogurt or anything. We just put water. And that's all. That's all we had to eat. And then we had one food that, at that time, the Bangladesh war was going on. And the UNICEF had prepared this protein-packed food supplement, which is a mixture of carob and a bunch of other things. And they had to accommodate it to be a vegetarian thing. And so it looked like chocolate powder. And so they donated so much of that to us. And so that's what we ate. And you couldn't cook it, you couldn't make chapatis with it or anything. All you could do is just put water in it and make it into some kind of like cold muck. And we actually called it gunk. And that was the name of it, gunk. And that's all we had to eat. So, but it had protein in it, it was whatever so okay. And it didn't bother us because we were so absorbed in, doing that service. Prabhupada wanted us there, and now you go to Mayapur and the building where the deities are installed. So myself and Jayapataka Maharaj, we built that, and we didn't take salaries. We didn't want anything in return. All we wanted to do was, because Prabhupada wanted that, and so we made sure all the building materials were there. And I would sleep on the construction site. Every night I would sleep outside on a pile of bricks to guard. So these things. And so the incentive to do all this was thinking how Srila Prabhupada had undergone so much difficulties coming to America, collecting money, going to Mataji to get money, and having heart attacks, and living with beggars and low-class people, when he was himself such an exalted, supreme personality, and accepting us, unqualified urchins, as his disciples. So that's where Patita Pavana comes. He's the most merciful, giving us, all of this. And we have Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi here, but his physical being may be entombed there, but Srila Prabhupada lives with us today. Look, this is his house, and he's present with us here. Here we have all of his books, and he doesn't want us to become complacent. He wants us to maintain that spirit to go out and preach. I've asked this question many times when I'm giving Bhagavatam class. So if I tell you, go tomorrow with nothing in your pocket, no books, nothing but a pair of kartals, and go by yourself to preach, will you go? I can't do that, Prabhu. Am I going to have a bus? Is there going to be a car? Where will I stay? You'll stay on the street. Like when the 6 Goswamis came here, where did they sleep?
Under a tree.
Every night, under a tree. Can you do that? So this is the Sankirtan spirit. So Prabhupada wants that to be instilled in all of us. So don't become lazy. And just wait for prasadam. 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Oh, boy. And then go back to your room. Oh, nice, yeah. No. That's the way that Lord Chaitanya's mission will be spread to every town and village. There are so many villages and so many towns where they're not chanting Hare Krishna. So who's responsible to do that? Us. We are representatives of Srila Prabhupada. And he has bestowed upon us the mercy that we can achieve by doing that. So if that's all you do in your lifetime is go to one place and make one person in that town and that village Krishna conscious, then your life will be successful. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
You see, Gopal has an ocean of memories of personal association. So we should all appreciate to have that association, like when Surabhi came in Gunarnava, they remembered the building of Krishna Balaram Mandir, and when all the devotees were so eager to hear, Surabhi was so happy, so much happy that he came back and just passed away here in Vrindavan. Just so, Brahmananda left, you know. Huh? You're next?
I'm next.
No, hold on. Yeah. I remember in Miami, we were in Miami Temple, we had a called New Naimisharanya Forest. It was a beautiful place, about 10 acres. And we all lived in the house, and there was like 3 main rooms, about 15 to 20 devotees per room, and you lined up on the floor. You had your place. In the morning you get up and clean your spot, and imagine 50, 60 devotees getting ready with 3 bathrooms, like it was like a whole chain operation for the Mangal Artik, and it wasn't quite as austere as what Gopal Prabhu described, but our clothes, we had a merge room. If you got lucky to find the same color socks,
Never had the same dhoti twice.
you get whatever you got. But the spirit was book distribution and going out on Sankirtan and making that sacrifice. We would travel in the vehicles and spend nights in the van sleeping, in the morning taking shower with the running river, cold and hot, whatever it might be, and always being harassed because out of ignorance the government officials always thought that what are these people doing, just money making in the parking lots, but we're giving the highest gift, the highest treasure. So we feel fortunate that we had many years of Sankirtan, to be out in the airports, on the rest stops on the highways, going from city to city, store to store, businesses, and every place. We would big fairs and auto races. Wherever people were congregated, devotees would be there distributing books and preaching holy name. So we should appreciate, we have a nice festival coming up, many devotees who have had personal contact with Srila Prabhupada, and it is something very, very special. It is very rare. And just hearing about Prabhupada and Prabhupada's pastimes is like Bhagavatam, hearing about Vidura, Maitreya. They're discussing about the absolute truth. Every word, every energy of Prabhupada was one of glorifying Krishna, encouraging the devotees to also always remember Krishna and work hard for Krishna. So we get many distractions are there in this material world. We all get distracted here and there. But stay focused by keeping good association. Avoid the association of materialistic persons. Always chant the holy name. Should we do a 5-minute kirtan?
Yeah.
All right, let's do some. And then you can ask a question if you want. I know it's a little late, but if you gotta go, you gotta go. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jai Gauda Nitai, Gauda Nitai, Gauda Nitai, Jaya Gauda Nitai. Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Shri Radha Shama Sundalita Vishaka Devi ki Jai, Shri Krishna Balarama ki Jai, Shri Gaura Nitai ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you. So every night we'll be having, I think for next several days, Prabhupada Katha. I'm not sure who's scheduled for tomorrow, but Hare Krishna.
Gopal Prabhu ki!
Jai.
Gauda Prabhu ki!
You can ask him questions if you want.
Anyone have a question?
Where was it that you took initiation? What city was it?
Which one?
What
Yours.
city did you get initiated?
Los Angeles.
Oh.
So we had gone from Seattle to San Francisco, and that's when the first Rocky Yatra, not the first one, but the big one, where Prabhupada came for me the first time to see him
Haribol.
physically. And so he got down from the
Right.
car, and he was just sort of floating because his dhoti was dragging the ground.
Sure.
He
No
was small and
What
stature. The devotees, Lord Jagannatha, he started dancing, and I was so happy to see him. I jumped about 5 feet in the air, and fortunately, that I have a picture. It was put on one of the not a BTG, but a promotional magazine later. So I'll show that picture in the next few days. But it's the first time I saw Prabhupada physically. So it was nice. But my second initiation, I'll tell one more short story, was that we were in Allahabad.
Gopal? She wants to sing you a happy birthday, Gopal, Hare Krishna song.
Okay, let me finish this first, okay? But we were in the first Kumbh Mela festival, and my job in many instances was, because I was a tough guy, I was Prabhupada's guard. And so it was very cold, and they built a tent, and it was like a double tent, inside, a smaller tent inside a bigger tent. And so between the big tent and the little tent, there was a space about this big. And so that's where I stayed, next to Prabhupada's room. And for any mischievous activities that are going on, I was on ready alert. And then in the middle of the night, outside of Prabhupada's room, there was a latrine. They had built a latrine for Prabhupada to use. And there was a bucket of water for him, not a bucket, but a clay pot for him to use for cleaning his hands with. And it was very cold, and so as I was lying there, I heard a dog walking around, and this dog broke Prabhupada's water pot. And then I was thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? Because so cold, I didn't want to get up, and I said,